Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Broadcasting Network, your home for professional development. This is the Tech Educator Podcast, your weekly webinar hosted every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a fantastic show, and today's show is talking all about Google Apps for our young learners. Following the hashtag tonight, GAFE for Littles, we have a fantastic educator on that's going to be talking not only about the great things happening on the GAFE for Littles hashtag, but we're going to talk about some of the great lessons that you can do with your young learners. Before we get into that, we have a great panel on board. I want to bring on Mr. Sam Patterson. Sam, how are you today? Welcome back to the program.
I'm doing pretty well today. It's a beautiful, albeit a bit cloudy day here in Southern California.
Now, we're talking a lot about Google Apps for young learners, and you've been doing a lot of work with young learners. Do I understand that you have a new puppet to show off today?
I do have a new puppet to show off today.
And what is this puppet's name, Sam? Because we're going to be talking a lot about not only the Google side of it, but how we can incorporate real-life things into our technology environments.
Well, this puppet's name is Doc.
Doc.
Kind of Doc.
Last name Holiday or
right?
Martin?
Could be Holiday. First, right?
Okay.
Ument. Maybe his last name is Ument. I don't know.
That's a good one. Good.
Ument.
Good. Anything
Good.
else? We're good?
No, I think that's it. That's
Excellent.
it, right? Yeah.
And Sam, we've been talking a lot about coding and programming. I understand that your book is still pretty hot on the Amazon Top 1 Million list. Where can we find, and what is the title of your book?
Programming in the Primary Grades Beyond the Hour of Code, available at fine book retailers everywhere.
And Jennifer Judkins, welcome back. How are you today?
Great. Good to see you guys.
It is so good to see you. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that you've been doing, and maybe we can talk about some of the things that you're working with on the younger grades as you work with your teachers.
Well, I just returned yesterday from I was attending the Mass School Library Association conference, which was really a great experience, working and talking with with media specialists who are often work very closely with people like me who are tech coaches. And I went to some great sessions. Pernille Ripp was there and Shannon Miller was there. So we had a really nice experience and got some great ideas.
That is fantastic. Those are two amazing people to follow on Twitter. What did you take out of it?
Got some great ideas about how to incorporate, different reading ideas into science curriculum, which is something I've been trying to focus on in our district because I've spent quite a bit of time on science curriculum development in our school. That's a great place for us to work with teachers because of the new next gen standards, and particularly at the elementary level, our teachers appreciate the support and there's opportunities for great tech integration in those subjects. But I also love to wrap in reading and fictional texts when we can to increase student engagement. So there were some great conversations around that.
Very, very cool. Maybe we can come up with a show topic around there sometime. Josh, I want to bring you on the show. How are things out there in your neck of the woods, Josh?
Things are wonderful. It's like a balmy 55 today, but we'll take it. It's not bad. All I could think of while Jen and Sam were talking were really, while Sam was talking, I couldn't help but think of the dumbest pun I ever made. When I was in middle school, every time I created a Word file, I would always title it "What's Up."
And so our guest today, no.
And obviously love the Pernille Ripp shout out. She's from Wisconsin. So
nice. Josh, we were talking a few weeks ago about some of the great things that we're all doing as tech coaches. And, 2 weeks ago when we had our last episode, actually, Sam was sharing some of the things that he's doing in maker spaces with airplanes and with boats. And I was so excited to get in and work with all the kindergarten teachers in my district. And we were talking a little bit after that show, we were talking about things that we can do with Google. Josh, can you do us a favor today and introduce our topic and introduce our guest today?
I would love to. I work and have most of my experience in middle school up. So when it comes to ideas of integrating technology in the younger grades, I would refer to it kindly as a black hole. I mean, I haven't worked with those students. I don't know what their capabilities are. And somebody like me who hasn't might assume what those students are capable of. And I think when teachers are asking for help and then they're asking from me and I have those assumptions, I think that it's not a great spot to give those kids the best experience possible. So not too long ago, I noticed this little hashtag flying on my screen. Some person by the name of Alice Keeler was tweeting about it, called GAFE for Littles, or GAF for Littles, Google Apps for Education for little kids. And I'm reading, and it's just amazing the optimism and how much amazing stuff was happening with these kids. And it all traced back to a person named Christine Pinto, who we are so happy to have on the podcast tonight. Christine, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And I'm reporting from Southern California, and I teach for Arcadia Unified School District. Blessed to be working with some kindergartners this year. They have been blowing my mind with what they've been doing, just in general, but especially with technology. We're 101 with Chromebooks, and totally have just jumped on board and taken advantage of the Chromebooks living in the classroom. So I'm excited to share tonight, and thank you for bringing me out.
So that to me is like the first interesting thing that I want to hit on. When once again, coming from my perspective, I often thought, iPads are like the best no-brainer option for the little kids in those levels. So can you talk a little bit about how you got on the Chromebook journey, whether it was your choice or not? But do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Sure. Well, last year I was working in a different district. We had access to iPads in the computer lab. And this year I'm in a different district, and this is their first year. The district went 101 with Chromebooks, all grade levels. Super grateful that they included littles with that, because I'm starting to find that as I talk to other educators, that it's not necessarily the case everywhere where they include little kids with the one-to-one access to technology. And at the beginning, I was very open-minded, optimistic, and was just like, I have no idea how things are going to go, but it's going to happen. A lot of it starts with your mindset. And I remember at the beginning just talking to somebody, and they were like, that's just like impossible to get like a whole class of kindergartners on their Chromebooks. And now I stand back and I'm like, my kids are doing their thing and they don't really need me right now. So it's very empowering for the kids to have a different kind of learning tool in their hands.
Wow, that is so cool to me, and obviously understanding that when you make a statement about like that, where the kids can start to do it on their own, even at kindergarten level, I think that speaks to a lot of the great work that you're doing. So let's dive in a little bit to some of that. So, I mean, let's start there with logins. I mean, I watch middle school and intermediate school kids, like grades 5 through 8, do this, and I mean, it can be frustrating watching them sometimes work on logging in. So can you tell us a little bit about some of your strategies for overcoming that with smaller fingers, less exposure to the keyboards, things like that?
Sure, absolutely. So this year I wasted no time with my kids. The first day of school, I pretty much just introduced the device. So we're like at the last like half hour of class on the first day of school. And, we talked about like, what's a Chromebook? Do you know what a Chromebook is? What can you do on a Chromebook? Just kind of did some brainstorming and like what they know about kind of technology and the device in general. Talked about the different parts of the device. Then the second day during our center rotations, one of the rotations was to log in for the first time, to take your selfie picture so that it can come up on your profile. And that was the first day. And so what I did for the kids this year was I put colored pieces of tape on the left side of the keyboard. So our first color is red, and it's for like the number row. And then I think the next one is yellow, and that's like the QWERTY row. So that way, and it corresponded with a login card that they had. And so if they're looking for a certain letter, they have to go look for the color. So if the colors are on their login card, so if they're looking for a Q, it's going to be in the green row. So they because on the keyboard the letters are all mixed up. For little kids, they're like, especially kindergartners, some of them might not know all their letters yet. Our keyboards are all lowercase, so that makes it a tad bit more challenging at the beginning of the year. But nonetheless, they can match the letters that are on their login cards to the keyboard. So, and early on, I wanted to develop that whole, like, if you have something that's right in front of you, you're not going to be asking me, where's this key? Because you have the answer right in front of you. It's on your login card. You can match it. So that is the strategy that got us through logging in at the beginning. And I now I can easily take for granted that they log in. We introduce an activity, like a kiddo comes up to demo it, and then I'm like, all right, guys, go ahead, do your Chromebook walk, which is our procedure for how to get the devices out and everything, and they're on their way. So that was login. Like I would say maybe it took about just a couple weeks for them to just kind of speed up the process of it, and then I would say maybe by like October, November, the kids didn't even need their login cards anymore. I would say like, oh, don't forget your login card, and Miss Pinto, I don't need it anymore because I have my crazy password memorized, and I'm like, okay, more power to you.
And I think a really important sentence that you said there that I want to circle back on was you put the information on their login card. And when they asked you, you said, no, you don't need me for that. It's on your login card. Because with all of these environments, it's all about managing where are the kids getting their information and making sure that they don't have to wait for you to do what they need to do.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you said that, because I really try to have the kids like, you're thinking for yourself, and believe that you can think for yourself. And, when you don't know the answer to something, how can you find the answer? Like before you come ask me for the answer, where and who can you ask first? There's more than one, share the knowledge, someone else has the answer in the room too.
Well, and when other teachers say, I can't imagine getting, a room full of kindergartners to do something on a computer, it's because in their imagination, those students aren't thinking for themselves, right? So if you have a room full of kindergartners trying to just follow your directions to do something complex on the computer, yeah, that's going to be rough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like, we ease into everything, and it's kind of like no pressure. I mean, I'm kindergarten, and I'm whatever I'm doing in the classroom, I'm setting the expectation for the kids. So if the kids are going to think like, oh, Miss Pinto always tells us what we're going to be doing and like shows us where everything is and tells us what to click on, then they're going to be waiting for me to tell them all these steps. But I read like, the first thing, especially with technology, I mean, just like exploring, explore, like here's what we're going to be working in today. Notice these icons that are like on the top, like click on those things and find out what it does, and like, once in a while I'll teach them a shortcut, like Control Z. If you make a mistake, you can use Control Z. Here's like the undo arrow, like, just like a lot of times the first thing is just like exploring and playing around and clicking on things. I don't want my kids to be afraid to click on stuff. Don't ask me for permission to click on something, So that's what I'm all about.
Yeah, I think what I see at my level a lot of times is there's kind of been the opposite message sent, where I think there's this underlying fear of, oh, I can't click on something that might do something bad, or whatever the case may be. And, yeah, there are certainly places online that you need to be careful of, and you can talk about those things later. But that idea of exploring a tool, exploring the device, seeing what it can do, and kind of letting them be free to do some of that, very Pepperdian, which I like. But that is super cool, and very amazing with, by October, I think any of our elementary teachers that have Chromebook devices, that is like an easy to take, boom, I'm starting that. When I come in for in-service in August, we're going to do that, because, wow, that to me was just an incredible little hack to get them on quickly.
Yes, definitely. I mean, and my whole thing is like, the kids, they come to you knowing some kind of content, knowing a little bit of something, and work with what the kids do know. I mean, my kids, by October, they have definitely developed some more skills. And so, why would I be holding them back to access the devices until like halfway through the school year, or even like, in like November or something, when they are working towards skills at the beginning of the school year, The whole thing with technology is that, this is another learning tool. So let them grow with the learning tool all year.
Very cool. Very cool. So we got them on the device. We overcame the first hurdle, and that's logging in. So now that they're in, what are some activities that you do? So you work on logging in. What would be one of the first activities that you have students take part in?
Well, this year the first activity they did was they just kind of created like a little shape word collage of themselves. So first things first, let's learn how to take a selfie, because the kids love taking pictures of themselves. They love taking pictures just in general, but also in theory, like, later on that turns into take a snapshot of something that has, that's related to what we're studying about, or usually it's mostly like inserting a picture, but the kids can definitely take a snapshot of something. But to take a snapshot, the first things first, let's just take a selfie of ourselves. So we know, click on the mountain picture, click on take a snapshot. And then like, of course, the first times the kids use it, you have to like authorize the camera to be accessible and stuff like that. But that was like the first thing. They inserted some shapes. Hey, when you click on the paint bucket, check that out. Go check out that paint bucket when you click on the shape and see what that does. It changes the fill color of the shape, and just because those are things that the tools that they're going to be using eventually when they are demonstrating what they're understanding with their skills. So the first activity was, here's how you insert a picture. Here's how you insert some shapes, just kind of exploring. And then like another intro activity was just like, applying what they were practicing. We were introducing a couple of sight words like I and C and A and the. And at the beginning of the school year, I remember that story, the dot. There was like dot day, and so it's just like, let's read this basic sentence. I see a red dot. Okay, so insert a shape and change the color of it so it matches the sentence. So just like intro activities like that, and then of course we dove into a spreadsheet, and they did like a graphing activity where they had to they were able to take some leaves in Google Sheets. There's a Google drawing, and that you can double click on it and it opens up, and they can drag some leaves onto a tree, and then they can graph how many leaves they have on their tree and complete these sentences of how many make your sentences match your graph and your picture. So just 3 intro activities that I had them do. Of course, now here we are in May, and this week, yesterday, the kids started working on their websites. So
Wow.
So we go from taking selfies and putting shapes to busting out a website. So I'm very excited to see where that's going. The kids have done great so far. I mean, it was just a matter of like, here's the link to create your site. Click on that link, type in, here, let's all put the title for our site, change the header. So choose a header that you like. And then I showed one group how to start dragging in their work from the year. So excited to see where that's heading. And we've been working on a lot of different projects. It's amazing. Their digital literacy skills have just like, they've just, I can't even, it's hard to describe it, but they can do so much. And I'm excited because especially like when I push out an activity to them, I'm providing less on the template for them. They know how to insert and do all this stuff. But they're soaring with everything right now. It's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It's making me think of this. Oop, I'm getting some echo. Are we better now? Okay. It was really making me think of this blog post that David Terrio wrote. David Terrio, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a high school English teacher, shockingly also out in California, which is like, where the people are at apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But his post was about, he always writes these beautiful, long, like the guy's just an incredible wordsmith. But he was writing about this movie Alien, which is an older movie. I haven't seen it though. But there's a part where the main character is using this object or this tool, and it just is kind of like a throwaway scene. But then later on in the movie, like it ends up being this very pivotal thing that if you weren't paying attention, seemed like it came out of nowhere, but they set it up later. Early in the movie. And that's what I'm thinking of with that snapshot is you talk about, oh, let's take a selfie. Well, how fun is that? We're all going to do that. But then the next time it's, take a picture of your work, take a picture of something that matches, that identifies this concept. And that it's just amazing to me when I was remembering back to my pre-service in college, having a professor say that there's not really that much difference between kindergartners and high schoolers.
Mm-hmm.
And really, there's not. I mean,
except kindergartners will tell you what they actually think.
Some high schoolers will as well. I can tell you that from experience.
No, they're the exception, though.
But yeah, I mean, that's just incredible that it's really the same. The scaffolding, the making sure that there's time to explore. So all of those things, just to hear those reiterated, I think sometimes we think the rules are different because they're little. And I love that you're kind of breaking down those barriers.
Yes, I like to take risks with the kids. I mean, a lot of times, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. This is my first full year teaching, so everything's kind of completely new, and we're just kind of, a lot of times I tell myself I have no idea how this is gonna go, but we're gonna try it anyways. And of course, I try to like think through things, especially with like management and everything. And think for the most part, things turn out pretty good. It's kind of like, and when things don't go well or they don't go as planned, it's important, like, how am I coming off to the kids? Am I completely shutting down and like, we're not going to do that again? Or is it just kind of like, okay, let's come back to the carpet for a second and talk about what's going on, and then like regroup. Let's talk about, like, let's explain what was going on and how can we fix this and move forward, and
Right.
so
You're kind of setting their schema for what happens when the tech in the classroom doesn't work, and you want them to have the message that, oh, it's going to be okay, right? If this doesn't work, we've got something else to do. It's not the end of the world.
Exactly. Or sometimes it's funny because they'll be like, my Chromebook is being stubborn. And usually it's not so much that the device is being stubborn, it's just that they're not manipulating it to do what they want it to do. It's a matter of like, okay, so like, let's just step back for a second. What, like, I can't get it to do this. And like, okay, what is it exactly that you want it to do? And then like, okay, do you remember how when we did this, like, when you click on this button, this is what happens? Yeah. Okay. That you got to click on that button first to make this happen. So it's a fun adventure, and I work closely with other teachers too, and really want to see my kids' digital literacy skills continue to build, and a lot of that happens with collaboration. So I'm grateful to be working in a district where they support that and the innovation that's happening, and excited for the future for the littles.
Yeah, I think it'll be definitely cool to keep on these conversations with you and your school as you go through the next few years to see what the effect of the work that you're doing is going to have as it cascades up the grade levels. Because I would say in many districts, kindergarten tech usage is probably much less than the level that you're using it, yet we know how important those tech literacy skills are, and we kind of assume this digital native thing that they can use them for learning. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you necessarily buy into that idea that they just kind of come like they've, were born with an iPad out of the womb, or what's your thought there?
With no doubt, the kids have had most kids have had some kind of tech exposure, even if it's they're playing on an iPad at home or they're using their parents' device. I think once in observing the kids at the beginning of the school year, though, the Chromebook device in general, like, they had not interacted with that kind of device before. And it's also a shift for them. And I've been using a device to play games, and games too. Now I'm going to be doing work on the Chromebook. And so, at the beginning, I established, like, okay, so, during, learning time, Miss Pinto is going to give you an activity to work on, and then you get to choose what you get to do on the Chromebooks during free choice time. So using a device productively for work, and kind of in a way like establishing that sense of like, okay, I'm working right now and I know where the games are, but I'm going to do my work right now instead. That's important too, and like to kind of develop that discipline, I guess, like within themselves to to stay on task and everything. But I don't take for granted that that the kids have had some kind of tech exposure. I kind of take it in a way that they, because the device is fairly new, that they haven't interacted with this device before. So I'm going to introduce it because this is a new device to them. Also, on a random note, I guess with that, I have a lot of English language learners. So when I broke down the device for the kids, like if you're thinking of like a brace map, like here's a Chromebook. Okay, like this part is the screen, and then this part is the keyboard, and this is a touchpad. So kind of like establishing that vocabulary, because I use that so loosely when I'm explaining things, like, but if I have like an English language learner who hasn't, first of all, interacted too much with technology and heard of these terms before, they're going to be like, what are you talking about? So as far, like, they definitely do have some kind of knowledge, or they definitely come not fearing clicking on everything. So, and that's probably because they've explored before. So I kind of just run with their drive to just explore.
Excellent.
Hey, Christine, could you talk to us a little bit about some of the applications? I mean, I know you had mentioned some slides and drives and stuff, but when you're saying kids are making websites, are you using Google Sites or are you using something else, or what? Talk to us a little bit about some of those kinds of applications.
Okay, sure. So since you just mentioned sites right now, the new Google Sites is very pretty and very user friendly for the littles to interact with. So yesterday, okay, let's back up now. So we start in Google Classroom. With every digital assignment, with every digital activity, we always start in Google Classroom, whether we're using Google Apps or not, just to start developing a consistent workflow. So when they get their devices, they, what do you click on? Click on Google Classroom, and then they open up there's like an icon on the shelf, which is kind of like, I guess, like the taskbar, I guess, if you want to call it, on the bottom of the Chromebook. And so they click on Google Classroom, it opens up, they click on My Classroom, click on Kinder 1617, and then, I title my assignments with the hashtag. Early on, they learn what the hashtag symbol looks like. And, I put a number with it. So on hashtag 042, we're going to be working on, we're going to be working in Google Sheets today, and we're going to be working on a graphing activity. And then, so we start in Google Classroom always, just so that they know where and I guess what to click on. So I don't have to tell them, you're going to click on this, you're going to click on that. They know, they've developed that pattern already. So yesterday we were working in Google Sites. They're kind of working on a digital portfolio. So I told them, okay, so you created all this awesome work and it lives in Google Classroom unless you put it on a platform, if you will. If you put it on a website and you can share a link. So the cool thing is, I think reality hit the kids when I told them, because some of them do have parents who live out of the country. You can take this link to your website and your mom can send it to your dad who lives in China right now, who's working in Taiwan. And so then, that for them is exciting because, if they don't get to see, a set of parents because they're working in another country, they're excited to share. And just kind of sharing goes beyond the classroom walls too. Like we have open house coming up in a couple weeks. I know some parents aren't going to be able to come. So what piece can still be shared outside of my classroom? So that I totally bird walked off that, but I get excited about that stuff. But other activities that we've done, they've been using Google Slides a lot too. So I take a lot of pictures, and I shared a folder of pictures with the kids, and I kind of just gave them like a template and said, like, okay, so here's how, you've been inserting a picture by taking a snapshot of your face and other stuff. You've been inserting a picture from the web, like doing an image search, and now you're going to insert an image from Google Drive. So I can share things with you, and, and those things this time was pictures. So let's insert a picture on a slide and type a sentence about the picture, which is pretty big. I mean, because it's kind of like a lot of times in kindergarten, we do want to make sure that the picture matches the sentence. So and plus right now, I call those memory slides. So they're seeing pictures from the beginning of the school year and like, oh my gosh, do you remember this? And like, who is that? Oh, that's so-and-so. You don't remember his haircut, and stuff like that. So a nice trip down memory lane. And that piece of work is going on to their website. And I guess the part that really gets me excited is that these kids, this is their portfolio for kindergarten. And, Google Apps, they have access to Google Apps until they're, done with high school and everything. So like by the time they're seniors in high school, can you imagine them looking back on their little kindergarten website and seeing their little faces and like listening to their voices with the videos that they've made? They made some stop motion animation videos. There's an app on the Chrome Web Store. I think it's just called stop motion animation. I think I can share that link in the show notes. And they made one penguin video. Tomorrow we're working with some older students with our big buddies, and they came up with like a setting and characters, and so they're going to be working on that, and that's going to get to go on their website too. So other applications that they've used. So I mentioned Google Sites, Google Slides. I kind of touched on Google Sheets. They've done a couple graphing activities in there. And we've explored a little bit of Google Docs, just like kind of more of like, the typing component with it. But a lot is mostly with slides and sheets. What else have we explored? And then like outside of technology, outside of Google Apps, technology resources. I started the kids up on Teacher Monster to Read, and that's like a reading game, and I like it because it's free. I can level the kids kind of like where I know their reading level is, and the kids have just like, they love it. I mean, because sometimes some games are kind of like a hit or miss. Like, a game's a hit when they choose to play it during free choice time. So I'm like, okay, this one was a good one. So, and then we've also done some coding activities. The kids were using Tinker to code and everything. So that's just some ideas of what we've been doing in kindergarten this year.
I love how she just said that's just some of the things she's doing in kindergarten this year. Sam, let me ask a couple questions here. 2 weeks ago we did our Makerspace show, and we were talking about some of the programming, coding things. Would you have, not that she needs it, but do you have any advice for kindergarten teachers like Christine who are looking to bring in coding, robotics? What can somebody in those primary grades look at? I mean, would you suggest them using any of the Hour of Code games?
You've got a lot of stuff available in Hour of Code, and almost all of it will run on a Chromebook. Also, Scratch Junior is available for the Chromebook. So that's an amazing tool that, my K through 2s spend a lot of time using Scratch Junior. So if I was using Chromebooks, I would be spending a lot of time in Scratch Junior on that Chromebook.
Jen, how about with the stuff that you're doing? Like, what are you working on with younger kids, or what could you recommend for any of your kindergarten teachers?
Well, I'm loving this conversation, Christine, because I work K-12, and I typically am using iPads with our K-2s doing things like Seesaw, but I mean, just even your idea related to how to make the login piece easier is just so clever and simple, and I love the idea of that. I wanted to ask you a question about that. You mentioned that the kids have a crazy password. So that makes me think that your kids are not given the same generic password, which I think is really smart to get them in the idea that they have their own password. Can you speak a little bit about that, whether you assign a password to students or you give them one or you let them choose one? What has been successful for you in that regard?
This year, like when the kids enter the school district, from my understanding, when the kids enter the school district, they are assigned a random 8-character password. So it's just like a random assortment of letters and numbers, and that's what's gonna stick with them, through their years. And so I don't choose it for them. That's all that was in the technology department and everything. I'm just grateful that those passwords are ready to go for the first week of school. And I guess if given the choice, I mean, the crazy passwords have ended up they've been okay. I mean, later on, I think it's helpful because the kids, having a crazy password is harder to share and harder for somebody else to pick up on because it's a crazy password. I guess like in the beginning, I guess if with the little guys, if they can start even with some sight words for like, a combination of like 2 sight words and a number or something like that, that can work too. But the crazy password, I mean, I don't know. I mean, in the beginning of the school year, I was like, oh, these passwords are gnarly, like, how is this going to happen? But now, like I said, like, I think as they get older, especially once they reach out of primary and, another peer learning someone else's password is going to be harder because the password's crazy. So I would say definitely leave out those crazy characters though. Like leave out like the exclamation point and the % sign. Like let's not do those. But letters and numbers are okay. We can definitely roll with those. But yeah, I mean, if given the choice, I would still kind of say that maybe like sight words and a number would be okay. And if the kids can change it later. However, the crazy passwords, I guess, are okay too. Just leave off the crazy characters.
I have to ask this question, and it's one of those questions that I feel like I should know by now, but I don't. When you say sight word, what do you mean?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sight words are just like words that appear in text and like you should just know on sight. So like right away. So that would be like, and especially a lot of the times sight words aren't words that have like a phonetic spelling, a consistent phonetic spelling. Like the word see, if you're thinking of a little kid, someone would write C like with the letter C. But C is a sight word because it doesn't have like a consistent spelling pattern. SEE, like you're just gonna have to know that word based off of how you see it, kind of thing. So that's like a sight word. So yeah, and there's also high frequency words, which are words that appear often in text. And oftentimes the high frequency words are sight words, but sight words are just like words that you have to know on sight because the spelling pattern may or may not be consistent. So that's a sight word.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful. I hear the term, and I taught business ed, so my background is not in the literacy realm. So a lot of that stuff I am playing catch up on. So thank you for being patient with me.
No, I appreciate you mentioning it because so often I'm in my own little kinder world and I forget that I'm not always in my world. It's not just me in my world. So I had a question for Sam though. As far as like what is like what maybe like coding resource would you recommend with starting out with like little kids or just kind of getting started with that just kind of getting some ideas for next year. This year, I started off having the kids with the Codable game with the little fuzzball thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Codable is awesome. I'm a big fan of Codable. And really with the littles, if you can do Codable and then go to Scratch Junior, they can be creating stories, animations in Scratch Junior and do some really amazing storytelling, which allows you to connect it to pretty much anything in your curriculum, because they end up just telling stories about what they've learned. And you can also like import photos into it and that kind of stuff. So I'm a giant fan of Codable and Scratch Junior. And on the robot end of things, I like working with the B-bots because they're really, really simple and you can have them just running around on the floor. So it's really, really simple.
I just want to throw in something in there too as well, Christine. I have had great success using Scratch Junior with young students, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And as Sam says, I think you'll find that it's more flexible than Codable. Codable, is sort of just a game. They're working on their direction sense and they're working on the sequencing piece. That's a very big part of coding, of course. But in Scratch Junior, it really opens up the digital storytelling because the students get to choose the appearance of the character or characters that appear on the screen. And there's a whole library of kid-safe pictures they can pick, and they can even take or draw their own to use in a code, in a program. And they can even record their voice. So it just becomes really fun for kids and super personal. And there's so many ways to tie it to the curriculum. And on the website for Scratch Junior, they have wonderful single-page activity idea printouts that are great getting started ideas. And you'll be able to be inspired by those and get inspiration for how to use it like in your curricular area. Like there was one example of how does the sun set, like the sun going up and down is like an example of how the kids would program like the sun sprite, the little character. And I took that idea and I tweaked it a little bit to coincide with our science learning goal, which was the pattern that the sun makes as it moves across the sky, morning, midday, and nighttime. And after the kids did observations of that outside, we had them demonstrate their knowledge by doing a coding assessment. Like they created a program that showed that how they knew the sun moved across the sky. And so that actually is just on my blog right now, but the kids really enjoyed it and it's super engaging and fun. And the coding mice are another one. Sam, have you tried? I think B-bots are great, but for some teachers, they're a little more expensive than
Are those
an
the
alternative.
purple ones?
Those little purple coding mice,
Yeah.
I've had great luck with those. And they work similar to a B-bot, Christine. They have like little arrow buttons, up, down, left, right on the body of the little robot.
Yeah.
And they're I think they're like $50 a piece. They're really
I
very
think they were even cheaper
maybe
than that.
40.
If
Yeah,
you just
they're
search
not much.
programmable mouse robot. Here, I'll do the search.
Yeah, they're really great.
The blue ones, I got them actually. I wanted, I don't remember when exactly I got them. I want to say I got them close to I think like Black Friday. I got them on sale. Like I know I got them cheaper for what they're listed for, and I got like a couple sets, so that way because we do center rotation, so that I can let a small group work with them and like maybe 2 or 3 kids to a mouse during our little rotation time just to explore. And I recently did it was a very spontaneous activity where we were studying positional words in math. And so, okay, so you're working with a group of kids and you're going to, come up with a setting and come up with, choose a positional word for the mouse, like, so for example, so one of my kids, a group came up with, the beach, and the mouse went, around the beach house and, like next to the sandcastle and, under, over the pier or something like that, and so they use like their positional words through that. And it was cool because I got to record it and shared it with them. So that was like a lesson I did with them and they loved it. It took 2 days though, but they really liked that project. So those mice are cool. I'm excited with Scratch.
Well,
Scratch
and that's the thing. The robots like slow things down. They allow you to kind of engage another level of cognitive complexity, and they take an individual activity and they make it more social. And it's like, well, it does make it take longer, but it means more to the kids too.
Yes. I mean, and just like, I had a couple parents like poking their heads in because I left the classroom the way it was, like their toys and creations and stuff were all over the place. And so they're like, oh, my kiddo was telling me about this last night. We're excited to see the video.
That's so cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the sessions I went to at MSLA, they were talking about using B-bots on the mats. B-bots move on these mats. And she was talking about how she made her own mat by getting a piece of acetate to put over a butcher paper or whatever, something larger that she had. And I thought, I could totally try that idea with the coding mice because I can't just buy a B-bot mat because the distance that the mice move is not the same.
Yeah.
I could make so that's my next mission, Sam. I'm gonna try to make little mats.
One of my favorite makerspace activities with my K1s is to have them take the little B-bots and create game boards that they would have to play on. And we just cover the table in craft paper and they have to draw it out. And they can use, what's great is they move the distance of the robot. So they can actually use the robot itself to measure distances out. So it's really fun to have them build those mats. But we also discovered that our laminator would take poster board. So we could tape a couple pieces of poster board together and run them through the laminator and have a decent sized mat. So that's how we made some of our own mats a couple years ago. But now I just use like tape on the tabletop.
Well, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, all of that sounds like a lot of fun. And a lot of it's just, one of the things I love about iPads and tech and robots with the littles is you have so many opportunities to work on sharing and communication, right? Because you put 4 of them on a robot and they all want to be the one pressing the buttons on the robot, and you got to like negotiate all of that. You got to keep everybody, working. You got to deal with the ones that stop working and start crying. I mean, it's intense.
Oh yeah. So, collaboration is definitely possible with the little guys. And and it starts in kindergarten, like how are you going to work with your peers, and what do you do when you're in this situation? And, we got to start them young.
So, Christine, I want to kind of wrap up this whole conversation by saying, number one, you're invited back on the show anytime. And number two, I want to kind of talk about the hashtag here, GAIF for Littles. How did it start? How did you get it start with? I know what you can find at GAIF, FOR Littles, GAIF, the number 4 Littles. Is it a chat also, or is it just a great place to find resources for helping out our young learners?
Got it. So the hashtag GAIF for Littles, it's GAIF, G-A-F-E. I have it on my shirt. Let's see. There we go. G-A-F-E 4, and then the number 4, and then Littles. And That started up about a year ago. I was doing a lot. I used to teach transitional kindergarten, so that's like 4 and 5-year-olds. I used to be GAF and TK, but then decided to branch it a little bit broader so that way, more primary people can share on, the hashtag. Let's not just limit it to one grade level and expand it to primary. And so that's been going good for a year. There are chats. The chat is the first and third Tuesday of the month at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So this week is an off week, but we do have a chat next week. And so chats are twice a month. And yes, a lot of great sharing happens there. People will be like, oh, I created, this activity. Here's the link. I mean, people share it freely on that. And it's exciting. I've connected with a lot of great educators. I get a lot of ideas from awesome teachers. If you ask a question, someone is bound to like pick it up and just at least drop their 2 cents on it and everything. So a great community on there. Definitely check that out and try to join our chat some week.
That is absolutely awesome. Moving forward, there's certainly a lot of things. Guys, obviously when we're looking at future show topics, we could easily do a show and tell of Google Apps, and I think it would be great if we could show off some of that stuff. We are, of course, live here on Tuesday nights, as we are every single Tuesday. We've had an awesome chat, by the way. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention here. The chat over on TeacherCast.tv has been absolutely on fire. I've been copying all the links for our show notes. And our show notes are going to be over on techeducatorpodcast.com. By the way, guys, this is episode 154.
What?
Yeah, 154. So check out all the great things that are going to be happening over there. But yes, 154 episodes into this fantastic podcast and going too. Christine, I can't say thank you enough. Your energy is absolutely contagious. Thank you so much for coming on. For anybody that's interested in learning more about how to find you, your blog, your socials, your everything, where can we get a hold of you and learn more about the great stuff that you're doing with your students?
Thank you. I blog as often as I can at christinepinto.com. So I believe you guys have some show notes, and those are made available. I can have a link there, but christinepinto.com. I've been doing better about blogging. Try to get at least maybe a blog out a week about what's happening. So that's where you can find me. I'm on Twitter. My handle is Pinto, like the bean, Pinto Beans with a Z 11. Pinto Beans 11.
Very, very cool. And again, thank you so much for spending the time today with us. And I know I'll be certainly sharing out all those hashtags and all those great things to our kindergarten and first and second grade teachers. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you for having me.
Jen, what do you have going on over on teachingforward.net, the new teachingforward.net?
I don't even remember, Jeff. I scheduled a post that's coming out in a couple of days. It's been a little crazy with this conference and coming back. I almost forgot we had a podcast tonight. I'm all confused about what day of the week it is.
Have you seen the new features that came out recently for Google Sites?
Yes, I'm very glad, because one of the sites that I manage, I've had that problem where getting text underneath pictures of staff was, I could make it look pretty, but it wasn't really looking good if you displayed it on a mobile device. So I'm very happy to see that addition for sure.
And we're going to be talking again about Google Sites. We're probably going to be doing that sometime early next month. I've been learning a lot about awesome tables and would love to see if we can schedule something. Josh is scheduling.
Let's do awesome tables.
Let's do awesome tables.
Quite frankly, awesome.
So here's what we're going to be looking at for those of you who are still listening. We have next week, which we're going to be doing a lot of Google mapping tools, talking about the brand new Google Earth. By the way, there's a lot of new features in Google My Maps. Josh, I don't know if you saw that. You can now do a Google Tour Builder also. You can now share and collaborate Google Tour Builder, which is yeah. So that's pretty cool. Look at that. So we're going to be talking about that all next week.
Wait a minute. Did you just tell Josh something he didn't know about Google Maps? I think we need to pause for emphasis.
I'm TeacherCast.
Well, you missed the beginning of the show where I revealed that Jeff had tried to recruit me to be spare Josh. He was going to send me to some Google Geo training so I could be like spare Josh on call when we needed Josh but couldn't Josh.
I don't know if this is a compliment or what, Sam, but you know. So next week, we're going to be talking a lot about the mapping tools. Our plan is to, maybe we'll even go long form on this one, but I definitely want to go through all the Google Earth stuff. I'll show you some of the Tour Builder things. Josh, our good friend Eric Kirch just did a whole thing on Google Lit Trips. I forget what a Google Lit trip is, so maybe we can talk a little bit about all those different things. The following week, May, we're still in May, right? The 23rd, we're going to be doing Jen's favorite company in the world, Seesaw. And we're going to be talking about student blogging and how wonderful Seesaw is. So maybe we'll do some Google Classroom, Google Site stuff on the 30th. I'm wrapping up to do a project-based learning with Google Sites at the end of the month here for a conference. So maybe we'll wrap up some of those kinds of things here.
Yeah, it'd be great to do an end of the year show for teachers about how they can clean up classroom, get ready for next year, those kinds of things. And even about the new Google Takeout transfer feature. That might be a nice show we could do, Jeff.
So I would love to do a show or even just a small segment or half a show on that. One of the things that we're working on over here on TeacherCast Labs that I'm going to open up to anybody who wants to be interested in this, even, our panel and beyond. But I'm putting together a demo Google site called What Can a Google Site Do? So I'm going to have a page for all the text and how the text can get formatted and changed, and a page for all the images. So that way anybody who's a tech coach out there can take this thing and basically show off every single function, because there was recently an announcement from Google that says what's going to be happening with old Google Sites and more importantly, what's coming out with new Google Sites. So they had a whole list of things that's coming down before the end of the calendar year on new Google Sites. I'm really excited about that and looking forward to it. So that is the calendar rundown. Google Earth, Google Mapping, Seesaw, Google Sites, a lot of great stuff going on.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah. Yes.
What about the promo song?
We don't have a promo song.
No, we wrote that promo song for your What Can a Google Site Do?
We don't have a promo song, Sam.
He doesn't remember the promo song. You should probably just sing it for him. Okay, here it is. What can a Google site do to help you escape when you're blue? Right?
It has been a great opportunity to speak to Christine Pinto today all about the great things over at Gay for Littles. And on top of everybody here, thank you guys for joining the show and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. There's, of course, several great ways that you can reach out and be a part of this and all of our shows. You can find us on Twitter at TeacherCast. Leave us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail, or be one of more than 7,500 people who have already subscribed to us over on teachercast.net/video. Thank you so much for subscribing to both our iTunes and our video channels over on YouTube. On behalf of everybody here, my name is Jeff Bradbury, saying keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.